Hi everybody, welcome back to LARP 101. I'm Jess, this is my channel, and this is my LARP Q&A. So I will be honest, I am completely blown away by the fact that I have any questions to answer at all. I really thought that I wasn't going to get any responses to this whatsoever, and I was going to have to think of something else to do. So I want to thank everybody who has asked me a question for me to answer in this video. I think I have included them all. If I haven't, I'm really sorry. Feel free to call me out in the comment section below and I will fix it. Thank you so much for watching this series of LARP 101. The reason I planned to stop here was because now that we're getting into the UK summer, LARP season was going to really kick off for me. I was going to have an event in July as well as 2 events in August. However, thanks to COVID-19, things are rearranging. At this moment in time, I'm still expected to be going to 3 events in August. However, as we get closer and closer to them and there is no looking to change on the UK opening up large events, that's still up in the air. So in my next video, I'm going to be talking about the future of this channel, and where I plan to go from here. That should be out in about 2 weeks, so please click subscribe and the notification bell below so you don't miss that. Okay, so let's get started on your questions about LARP. Now, I have put in the description box below what all the questions are and what time I start them, so that if you have a particular question and you want to skip the rest, you can do so. Okay, starting with a big one. Please keep in mind that none of this is going to be universal because LARP organisers like to do things in different ways. So I will start with pretty much how my first day at most LARP events go. I tend to go to weekend long events, which means that everybody arrives on the Friday, we get checked in, you sign in, get your weapons checked, sort out your sleeping arrangements, all that jazz, and then you play through to either the Sunday or if it's a bank holiday, the Monday. On the Friday, my system usually has either what we call a soft time in or a hard time in. A soft time in is when things kick off at approximately 5 o'clock, but people are still kind of mulling around out of character for a bit. There's no sort of real urgency to get into character. And you've probably got a couple of hours before the first battle kicks off, and therefore there's no sort of rush to get started. A hard time in is when the plot team has decided that they are going to start things with a bang, and that usually involves some form of large battle or some form of really significant plot event. Hard time ins are usually really gripping and incredibly memorable. I remember every hard time in I've ever had because they are always incredibly dramatic. However, because they start at a very specific time, if anyone's arriving late or for whatever reason, they're going to miss it, and therefore it's not really that desirable when you have people coming in from quite a long distance away. By the end of day 1 of any LARP event though, plot-wise I expect to know 3 things, and that is 1, where on earth we are, 2, what we're going to do there, and 3, why are we going to do it? If the game has not established these 3 things by the end of the night, it usually can be quite hard to be invested in the actual storyline itself. And if your players are not invested in your plot, then things are not really going to progress. Not all 3 of these things are going to be established perfectly. It's always a good story when things turn up unexpected over the course of the weekend, when you find out that the thing you're doing is actually being done for a completely different reason from what you're told. Everyone who loves a little bit of mystery or some red herrings being thrown in around the place. But if players don't have a purpose as to what they're doing and why they're doing it, then the whole storyline is going to flop, and quickly. Right, if you're brushed up on your roleplay jargon, then you have probably heard of a term called downtime. Downtime is a term used in LARPs and tabletop RPGs to describe the amount of time between your roleplay action and the start of your next adventure. Some LARPs do have downtime systems and have mechanics in place to help advance the story and the plot between LARP events, because some of them are few and far between. In my experience, these are almost all smaller LARP events, and that is because when you have a fest system of a couple thousand people, attempting a downtime system where you are having to explain the actions of 2,000 people over the course of, let's say, a winter, is a rather ambitious project. You have to remember that a lot of LARPs are mostly run by volunteers, and therefore any downtime system that is being offered is being done in those volunteers' free time, and most likely for free. So if there is no downtime system in your LARP game, then you can feel free to get creative with what's happening with your character between games. Write some fan fiction, give your character an adventure or two. Feel free to keep them alive in your head. Just keep in mind that whatever you decide your character was doing in the 2 to 3 months between your LARP events probably will have little to no effect on the actual game itself. That depends on your plot team and the story they have planned. In an ideal world, there would be many scenarios as to what could happen if players make certain decisions within a game, because at the end of the day, that would be the most immersive LARP experience, right? For players to have complete control over what's happening. However, there are some major problems with this, and the biggest one of that is that what is obvious to the plot writer as being the solution to a problem is not always what is obvious to the player party. A plot writer can write an ending for, let's say, option A and option B as a solution to a plot, only to find that players are considering options C, D, E and F. So some plot writers will steer the plot back onto a pre-planned course of action with plot drops, encounters, and basically directing the player party into a pre-decided solution. And some others will leave things open-ended and will keep writing plot depending on the actions of the actual players themselves. There's really no right or wrong to this answer. It just depends on your plot writer's personal preference. Be something other people need, because if you are useful, people will keep you around. Scribes are good. Anyone who is willing to sit through an extremely long meeting and take notes is welcome to hang around me in my book, because I struggle to do that. If you're able to be entertaining, that is always great. A bard is always a welcome relief in most player parties. Any good bard would tell you that they are kept around to be witty and entertaining. I have seen full-on masses of people go out into a fight where many poor unfortunate characters have died, to charge behind the battle lines to save that one bard who is particularly amusing. Offer to bodyguard people. It will help important people stay alive, and it's a really good way for you to get into the thick of a plot, especially when it is your first time attending, because it gives you a great excuse for being there. Keep talking to people and offer help, because helpful people are kept around, and eventually you'll find that instead of you going and offering to help out with plot, people will come to you and ask you for help, at which point you're invested and you're involved. I pretty much run on roleplay anxiety. I absolutely love LARP, couldn't survive without it, but I absolutely dread meeting new people because I am a terrible role player. So I have 3 key tips which can make things a little bit easier. Number 1, think about what is making you anxious about roleplay. For me, it's the fact that I'm really scared of embarrassing myself. I'm really easily embarrassed and I find it really hard to shake off. And the idea of people looking at me and thinking about how terrible of a role player I am can cause me to break out into a cold sweat. But it really helps that other role players and other LARPers know how nerve-wracking it is to be a first timer, because we were all super nervous the first time. Knowing that really helped reduce my anxiety. Talk to somebody out of character if you're feeling anxious, and explain to them how you're feeling, whether that be a friend or a member of the event staff. There may even be a designated person or team to welcome new people who will be more than happy to talk you through your first time role playing. They likely will have some good advice that will make things a lot easier for you. Number 2, Make eye contact and smile at people. In my experience, this is probably the easiest way to find somebody who's actually willing to roleplay with you, because in my experience, if people smile back, it means they're usually open to you starting a conversation. So if somebody smiles back at you, take a deep breath and go over and start a conversation. In my roleplay tips video, I talk about having some conversation starters pre-prepared before you go to an event. Pick one and go up and get chatting. Take a deep breath before you do and take the plunge. Number 3, if you mess up, try not to panic. Everybody messes up from time to time. Seasoned role players of 20 years mess up from time to time. But if you panic when you do, it suddenly becomes a lot harder to bounce back from. So if you make a mistake, take 3 deep breaths to calm your nerves and then go back in. If that doesn't work, feel free to go and take a break. Go, make yourself a cup of tea, sit down, calm down, and when you're calmer, come back and try again. Don't be too hard on yourself if you mess up first few times. Roleplay can be really hard, especially when you're incredibly anxious, but it will get easier the more you do it. Practice makes perfect. Okay, so I'm not the greatest person to talk about this because I've only ever had one of my LARP characters die, and it was pre-planned. However, I do have a horrible tendency of getting overly attached to my characters, and that does give me a lot of anxiety about what will happen when they're inevitably murdered one day. I will talk to you now about some of the things I've done to try and mentally prepare myself for the eventuality of my character being murdered in a dark corner of some LARP somewhere. The prospect of losing your LARP character is very real, and the idea of being able to survive something that is quite dangerous is rather exciting, and therefore the prospect of being killed at a LARP is almost always there. Some people think they can avoid it, and some people do very well, but there is no 100% guarantee that you are not going to end up losing your character in some way. And yes, there is a possibility that you will lose your character on day one. I've seen it happen. I remember one of the reasons I do remember a Heart 1 event with a hard time in, as described in one of the previous questions, is that there was a battle that was going on at the very start of the game on the Friday afternoon, and I watched a brand new player throw on his kit in the out of character area. He went charging out into the in character area, out of the front gate of the camp, into the battle. He disappeared into the fray, and 15 minutes later they brought his body back. It was unfortunate, but it happens. If you die that quickly at any LARP event, see what you can recycle from your dead character. I mean, if nobody knew that your character was a priest in service to an ancient evil, then no one's going to know if you're reusing that concept. It's usually considered bad form to keep playing the same character just with a slightly different name over and over, or especially to come back as your dead character's long lost twin brother or sister. But in my opinion, if nobody knows you're recycling an old concept, then it's not hurting anyone. Obviously, this is a lot easier to pull off for a character that has only existed for a day or two, as opposed to one that you have been playing for years. In terms of losing a character, you're allowed to feel sad about it, no matter how long you've been playing. One thing I'm doing to prepare for my character's deaths is I am writing down their memoirs, so that when her story is over, I will still remember that story and how much I enjoyed playing it. And I always have characters pre-planned ahead of time, so that if I do lose a character that I love, I still have more characters that I'm looking forward to play. I have a Pinterest board, I have many Pinterest boards in fact, of different characters for different LARPs and different concepts. I've put a link for that in the description box below if you want to have a look, and that way I still have characters I'm looking forward to playing, and hopefully that will cushion the blow when it inevitably comes. There is a weird saying that when God closes a door, he opens a window, and I know that's a bit cliche, but the whole point is that even if that opportunity becomes closed to you, you now have the opportunity to play other concepts that you're really looking forward to playing. Okay, so this is a hard one because age limits at LARP can be there for a variety of reasons. And usually it comes down to two: content and insurance. And most events that I know that are available to have minors go to them will still need to have a supervising parent or guardian with them, mostly for insurance purposes, but also for safety reasons. The best thing you can do is start researching LARPs in your area. Go on to places like Facebook or to websites like larping.org. The keywords you're looking for are family friendly, kid friendly, or LARP summer camp, because those do exist. These LARPs are more likely to have something suitable for your age group. LARP summer camps are few and far between, but when they do exist, they are aimed pretty much exclusively at teenagers. The majority that I have seen, however, are based in the US, so if you are not there, then you may struggle to find something specific for teenagers. Family-friendly LARPs are suitable for children and teenagers, however, most of them will still require you to have a parent or guardian with you. Beyond that, I know it's really hard to get into LARP when you're a minor. If you have friends who want to LARP as well, then you could possibly start up your own group and play together. But I know that's probably not the answer you're actually looking for. On the upside, being underage doesn't last forever, and LARP is a growing hobby and will very likely still be around when you hit the age of majority. And then you'll be able to go on your own. I've seen kids grow up in LARP. I've watched them go from being tiny little kids to full on, adults. It'll fly by, and before you'll know it, you'll be out there LARPing with the rest of us. Ooh, that's a hard one. So it's really hard when you learn something out of character that's going to affect you in character, especially when the thing you've learned is going to have some fatal consequences. If you're certain that there's no out of character maliciousness for what you've learned, then there are a few things to keep in mind. Firstly, you can't control how other people are going to react to your character. If somebody has made the decision that they are going to kill your character for a legitimate in-character reason, then you have to accept that that is their decision. Secondly, unfortunately, you don't have that many options as to what you can actually do about it if you aren't aware of it in character. It's unfortunate that sometimes in stories innocent people get killed, and it's really sucky, but sometimes it just happens. The best hope that you really have is that when planning a in-character murder, it often requires time and energy to do so. So it may be that in the time frame that this person is taking to try and kill you, that you may learn about the attempt and may be able to mitigate it. But if you don't know in character that it's going to happen, then there's not much you can really do, which is not the answer I really want to give, but that's the nature of the game. Ultimately, if you don't know in character, then you don't know in character. Okay, so it's always really good to get out of your comfort zone and try and roleplay something that is very different from how you are in real life. However, it can be hard to do so, especially if you're really going far beyond what you're used to. So the best advice I can give is start by getting a piece of paper and write down all the characteristics of your character that you want to portray, and then start checking off the ones that you are quite confident that you can pull off, because then you're left with a list of characteristics that you need to compensate for. Your three main tools for compensation are going to be your costume, your mannerisms, and other players. In terms of your costume, what you want to be able to do is use your costume in a way that adds to the characteristics without you actually saying something. So for instance, if you're trying to play a military leader and you want to come off as someone with a strong and imposing figure, but that's not how you really look in real life, you can try using bold colours to grab attention, pad out the shoulders to give yourself a more imposing frame, and maybe add detailing like military medals to imply that you have competence on the battlefield. In terms of mannerisms, it's going to be a fake it until you make it kind of situation. Watch films to find characters that portray what the characteristics that you are trying to pull off, and watch how they do it. Watch how they walk, how they talk, how they carry themselves, everything about their manner of being, and then practice emulating that yourself. Do it in front of a mirror, sort of watch your posture, try speaking a few things you think that they might say, even say some lines from the films that you've been watching, and keep doing it until you feel confident enough that you are portraying your character the way you want to be. And other players are a massive way to help convince people that you are capable of something that you may not necessarily be capable for in real life. Because if you have other people convincing others that you are what you say you are, then it's a lot easier for it to come across. So let's say, again, you're playing a military leader. If you have a unit or battalion who listen to you and follow your instructions, then people will see you as a military leader because you are one. It's not easy getting out of your comfort zone, especially if things seem to be physically or mentally beyond what you are capable of in real life. But nothing is 100% impossible. The trick is to know where your weaknesses are and have methods in place to compensate for it. And after a while, it'll become second nature. And that's it. Thank you so much for all of your questions. If I've missed one, I am really sorry. Feel free to scold me in the comment section below and I will sort something out to make sure your question gets answered appropriately. I hope you're staying healthy, happy and safe. I will see you on the battlefield soon.